real conversations, and some hard truths. Gangs, drugs, and guns. Giving a voice to those willing to sacrifice. We have stories that need to be told. We have lessons that need to be taught. Protect and serve. Welcome to The Quiet Professional. Hey everybody, welcome back. Nathan Romas with you. We are back with our Service and Sacrifice series. As we come up to Remembrance Day, I've got several guests lined up to talk about their experiences in training and deployments, the memories, the people, and impacts of service. For this, I've also got co-host Ben Klick returning. Short bio on Ben, if you don't know him yet, Ben spent 20 years in the Canadian Army, much of it behind the rifle. He is now the owner of Sierra 6.4 Riflecraft, and he now teaches mental management and marksmanship for military and law enforcement applications, as well as instructing civilians. And our guest today is retired Master Warrant Officer Tim Turner. Tim joined the Queen's Own Rifles of Canada in 1982, and then joined the Princess Patricia's Canadian Light Infantry, or more commonly referred to as PPCLI, in 1985. He was further posted to Specialized Unit 2 Commando in 1986. He has served in several deployments, including Cyprus, Croatia, and Afghanistan, just to name a few. In 1997, he became a master sniper and won the International Combat Sniper Competition with our co-host. So we'll talk about that a bit. And Tim spent several years and postings in various training capacities where he worked with recruits and leadership and snipers. In 2008, Tim retired and joined the Alberta Sheriffs, where he protected several premiers for the province and the lieutenant governor. He's received a number of awards for his service, both in and outside the armed forces, and now runs a foundation called Operation Pegasus Jump, which you can find all over Instagram. And here he trains veterans, first responders, and serving members on skydiving. So welcome to both of you guys.
Thank you. Awesome.
As we were saying, just kind of offline, and for listeners, Tim's been on the show before. And normally with these episodes, we start right at the very beginning. So we talk about childhood and coming through that and what kind of led you into your service. I will put up in the episode description some links so people can listen to that, because in the prior episode, we talked a lot about leadership and your experiences growing up and getting into the military. So we kind of covered all that. So this will be a little unique where we'll just jump right into your career and start there. So maybe you kind of take it from the beginning of your career, Tim, and tell us about getting in, I think it was the Queen's Own Rifles of Canada. You started with them in 1982. Can you tell us a bit about what they're about and your experiences there?
Yeah, absolutely. So what got me to join the Queen's Own was the Falklands War was on. And I'm like, oh man, I need to be in on this. And I've always wanted to be a paratrooper. So I found the Queen's Own Rifles. And interesting thing with them, they're the oldest infantry regiment in Canada, formed in 1860. And they were privately raised. And the CO, he was the man who built Casa Loma in Toronto. So that is actually the regimental museum and where the regiment holds all their functions. So they're pretty blessed with that position there. So I ended up in the Queen's Own with a bunch of my buddies from high school. And there was a bunch of paratroopers that were leaders. We didn't have the jump task at the time. And what happened was I did my infantry recruit course all summer, so the summer program. I topped the course, and at the end, they're like, hey, great job, you topped the course, but we have to release you because you're not a Canadian citizen. I was only a landed immigrant at the time, so I had to get my citizenship done to stay in the unit, stay in the Army, so I did that. And then we got the jump tasking. So it was the first time in history that a reserve unit had received the jump tasking by D&D. And that was done by a man named Major Hasek, who was ex-British Army and then Canadian, was in the Canadian Airborne Regiment. And he pushed this in order to augment the airborne regiments So literally 8 months in the Army, I went to jump course, April of 83. So that was quite the experience, and totally blessed to be there. You don't know at that time, being a young lad, that, most people wait, 2, 3 years to get on this course, and I got it in 8 months. So the interesting thing on the course is I had the jump instructor. I don't know if Ben met him, called Scary Jerry Topham, and he just passed and passed away. He was a tough trainer to start with, and then being a dirty reservist on course, I was treated a lot harsher. But it was a great experience because I'm just full of energy, and I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll give you 100 push-ups. Yes, I'll do that. I just kept. So my output was enough where this guy is like, okay, this kid's cool kid. So when we went on to our jump phase on jump 1, he took his helmet and cracked me on my helmet, went, yeah, have a good one. And that just made it feel like all that torture for 2 weeks was worth it. This guy, he respects what I just did.
Are you scared at all at any point? Like, you never jumped out of a plane before.
I had completed 2 jumps prior.
Okay.
On a adventure training, which was another crazy thing. So I wasn't even fully signed into the unit yet. My paperwork wasn't even complete, and they took me out on adventure training. I learned to jump. So the night prior to jumping, I couldn't sleep, and the weather sucked. And I'm like, oh, I hope we get weathered out. I don't want to do this. But then the day of, and it gets there, and the engines are on, you're dressed, and then it's, that group attitude. It's like, well, I can't let anyone down, so I got to do this. And then just fell in love with it right away on jump 1. It was an incredible experience. And the guy who topped the course, so there's 8 of us in the Queen's Own, was one of the guys from the Queen's Own Rifles. He was a lawyer in his civilian job. And back in that day, I don't think it was based off performance of execution of drills. It was based off the PT test at the end. So you do another PT test, and he just ran it super fast.
Okay.
And so he got it basically for fitness. But that was kind of a neat thing to have the first crew of jumpers on this jump task, and we ended up topping it.
So, and then you jump into PPCLI from there. So it's 1985. What's kind of the transition from the Queen's Own to that? Like, what's the difference for listeners?
Well, it was very interesting because the training in the Queen's Own, I had nothing to relate it to, obviously. It was pretty good, very professional, very tough. The instructors were amazing. And I had gone on a couple of 6-month call-outs with 3 Commando. So I was attached to 3 Commando as a Queen's Own. So I had some airborne regiment experience under my belt before I joined the Army. It took 2 bloody years to get in. So I already had my jump course, my Marine Beret course, time with the regiment. And I still had to wait 2 years to get in. And then once I did get in, I had to do all the training all over again, minus jump course. So I had to do the recruit training, battle school. There was no bypassing, where we have programs now where the guys can bypass, which I think is excellent because it's the same training.
Yeah.
So why are you spending extra money and retraining guys? But I wouldn't have traded it for anything. I mean, the experience of bonding with your guys in battle school is key to your success in your career and your friendships moving forward. But the transition, it was easy. I just thought this is another adventure. Yeah, it's an inconvenience. I got to do all this training again. But yeah, it was really good. And then getting into battalion from battle school, my first day at work was Remembrance Day.
Oh, really?
So we got posted battalion on the 9th, and then Monday was Remembrance Day. So that was kind of nice. But the experience of battalion at that time, it's low level. I'm used to doing, like I said, I was with 3 Commando, and now I'm doing slower pace stuff with the battalion at the time in 85. And then I got the posting to 2 Commando of summer of 86. So that was kind of neat. And prior to that, we had a experience where it was a couple of planes crashed in the mountains. So we were out on basically rescue mission moving through the bush looking for these planes. So that was kind of a neat experience to do that. And at the same time, we're running Trooping of the Color, which is a massive, massive parade. It's like 6 weeks of drill. So we actually, two of us, I'm a fairly short guy. And when you get sized for a parade, you're sized by your height.
Yeah.
So the two center guards are the shorter people, about 5'5" to about 5'9". We were called the Smurf guards, and we were the guards that got sent to go and do this rescue mission. So we missed out on doing a lot of the drill, which was great.
Yeah.
Except we were humping up and down the mountains, but another great experience. And then that led me to right after the trooping. Literally, the trooping was over on a Friday, and then Saturday, myself and I was a private, one of the sergeants from the unit. We drove down to Petawawa together, and of course, we did it. And he's an Army Ranger, and we just did that in straight shot, no sleep, straight to Toronto, and yeah, it was a bit of a dog show.
Well, and most of this time, are you what are the accommodations like? Are you living on bases this whole time, or do you get to live off base?
Yeah. So as a young private, I'm only in battalion for about 8 months, and living in the shacks, doing the shack life, which was interesting. Lots of good stories. Guys driving their motorcycles up and down, and back in the good old days when you couldn't really get away with it, but you could do it.
Yeah.
So lots of crazy barrack room stories from that.
Less cameras.
Yeah. But arriving at the Airborne Regiment, reporting in, was funny because Ben would appreciate it. The first thing I see is old Scotty Collins, the super old grizzled guy. This guy looked 80 when I got there in 86. The guy just looked 80 years old all the time. And I just see this grizzled guy out there, and he's kind of in PT kit, and he's giving pack drill to defaulters on the parade square. I just thought this, because he looked super old, he was the RSM. And I find out he's this iconic sergeant from the regiment.
What were people like then? So, we're talking in the early to mid 80s. What was the attitude like? Because I know it's much different than today, and they could really kind of razz you through training and stuff. But I imagine the camaraderie is second to none. And when you have a good group of people, it's like nothing else when you have a really solid group around you.
Mm-hmm. I think it was really good. Ben could appreciate it. I mean, different soldiering doesn't change. And of course, everybody thinks in my day it was harder. And the troops of today, I think they get a bum rap because the troops of today are amazing.
Yeah.
And you look at all our specialty units we have now that we didn't have back in our day, and people are achieving those standards. The standards aren't lowering. But the back in our day, we were joining a peacetime army. So you've got a lot of leaders who spent their entire career who haven't really deployed. But that doesn't change anything because their training and the professionalism is the same. You don't need to deploy to a battlefield or a UN mission in order to legitimize your stature as a soldier.
Yeah.
Training is designed to be as hard as war or harder. Like I've been on exercise where it's harder, and it should be. You should be ramped up to this level in order to go to this level. So that's one thing Canadian Forces do very well. We do a lot with little resources. And that's always proven when we do international exchanges and you're working with Americans or Brits or whoever. And you can see the ability of what we can achieve with what little we have.
Well, you know what? That's something that I've seen recently, actually in recent discussions, where people talk about, you don't get to choose when you get deployed, right? And especially if you're in the Canadian Army, we go to less things than maybe the Americans, involved in less things. So it's like you're still there and you're still doing the training and giving up your time and your family time. So yeah, there's something to be said for service, regardless of where you've gone and what you've done.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's our training system is very good, and that's what makes us the good soldiers we are. Like in Afghanistan, all the coalition 911 us continuously. We never 911 to anyone, so we always bailed the coalition forces out.
Mm.
And quite often when we're linking up with American units, particularly special forces units, they would often ask, "Go, you guys SF?" We're like, "No." Like, they're like, they go, "Holy crap!"
Yeah.
Like, I was just talking to your sergeant up there. I go, "No, that was a private you're talking to that basically took over the whole position."
Mm.
Tim and I and a couple other soldiers in '97, we went down to Fort Carson, Colorado, to a special operations sniper competition, and we were the only non-special operations unit. I mean, we'd both been in the airborne, but we were representing PPCLI at the time. We were the only conventional infantry unit at that whole competition.
Very cool.
That's just where we were kind of at. So,
okay.
Yeah, and we're outperforming them.
Well, and I've heard this about the Canadian military. Like, it's kind of the do more with less. You hear that in policing a lot too. But it's like you're always trained to the job above you and to do kind of more things. So you have kind of more of a breadth of experience than when you get into those really big militaries like US or maybe China. But it's like they have so many people that you can do just one function or like a smaller set of functions. So yeah, I kind of get what you're saying there. So
yeah, well, when Ben and I were on our master sniper, we had two guys from American Special Forces on. And again, they thought we were SF guys. And the thing with the Green Berets is their claim to fame is we have two specialty courses. And for us, that we have 10 to 15 specialty courses. And these guys couldn't comprehend that. So Ted had sniper and machine gun. So that was his. And I'm like, really? That's it?
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny when you think of that. That's what made them special, is he had two courses.
Okay, so where are you now in your career? So you said you're moving kind of across country. What does that look like for you? Like, and where's family at?
Yeah, so my family was in London, Ontario, and Tillsonburg. So they're kind of spread out in the Ontario area. And they didn't really come into play. I was visiting much. But within the commando itself, my progression was like it should be. It should be, how much do you output? What are you achieving? And so I worked like a dog when I got to the commando. Keep your mouth shut and push forward and watch all the airborne veteran guys do their thing and learn off them. And through good leaders that actually train you. And that was the good thing about the airborne regiment, is they trained everyone to be leaders, because it's like bullets. Parachutes don't know rank. So you have to be able to take up that next level or the level above, which would happen often on exercises. That's why the whole commando is in on your orders group. And then you are asked, all right, Trooper Turner, explain phase 1. If you can't, you're not on the mission. So everybody has to know everything. And you would jump in on exercise and there'd be casualties. And the sergeant would be down. Guess what, Trooper? You're up.
Yeah.
So the only other unit that I think does something similar to us is probably the Parachute Regiment, but definitely the Royal Marines. Royal Marines, even in their recruit training, they have leadership roles.
Okay.
So that's the difference between the Royal Marines and the British Army. Because the British Army, their average units are, I would say, comparable to the American units. You're just a troop and you move forward.
Yeah.
Whereas the Royal Marines, they train them to be leaders, just like we do.
Okay. Well, one thing I want to ask too on that is, and this is from other guys I've talked to that have been in military, the parachutes themselves, were they garbage back then? Like, what was the deal with them? Because apparently you come in, land hard on them, or maybe compared to now.
No, that's all static line operations. We followed 18 feet per second. And again, Canadian innovation comes to the front. And we had a alteration we put to the parachute. This is basically the same parachute the Americans are running, but we invented a thing called the anti-inversion skirt, which is a small net that's being sewn into your canopy.
Okay.
So if you have wind gust that could collapse your canopy, That's what would happen before the anti-inversion skirt, but then they put the skirt in, so then the force of the wind wasn't able to collapse your canopy, which is a bad thing when you're close to the ground.
Yeah.
So Canada came up with that innovation.
I thought someone was telling me like you'd come in so hard, and that's how a lot of guys get like knee and back problems because you're slamming a little hard.
No, that's true, but that's static line operations, and that's why you get paid the extra money for doing that.
Yeah.
You mentioned the 18 to 21 feet per second. Put that into context. It's literally like jumping off a story and a half every time. That's you're hitting the ground at the same speed as if you jumped off a story and a half building.
Okay, that's a good visualization.
That's Mr. Doom and Gloom. I like just to say it's 18 feet per second because when I say story and a half, it's like that's going to hurt.
and Tim did free fall. I did free fall later with modern chutes, but Tim's old enough that he did it with the round parachute, which means you go from falling at terminal velocity of 210 kilometers an hour to 18 to 21 feet per second in about a second and a half. So he was pulling a lot more G's on opening with the round chute than later I did with the square. So that's why I'm taller still. Tim and I were the same right at the beginning, but
But that's a really interesting point. I did the last military freefall course in 1988 with the rounds. So it's basically the same canopy. It's steerable. It's a CT2, so it has steerable panels. However, and you have a front-mounted reserve. So you pull 7 Gs on opening. It was called the Widowmaker. Guys were pulling their knees out. One guy ripped his retina in his eye.
Jeez.
It was crazy parachute. In order to deploy your reserve, because a normal skydive canopy and the new MFP ones, it's you have a reserve on top and your main on the bottom. This thing is a front-mounted reserve, just like static line. And if you have a full malfunction, you have to put your arm out in order to rotate your body onto your back, and then you can pull your reserve.
Jeez.
It's ridiculous.
I couldn't imagine that. That's why I don't skydive. It's too crazy for me. So you're moving right now. You're in commando, to commando. Are you coming up to your first deployment with them? Is this what Cyprus is?
Yeah. So again, that was great timing. Got to the commando in the summer of '86. And then we were starting workup training for Cyprus. And October '86, we deployed to Cyprus with the commando. And at that time, the 3rd Battalion Parachute Regiment was on the island, and they became our sister regiment. So King Charles, Prince at the time, came over to sign the paperwork, and I was very lucky. It was just by chance I got picked to go and meet him, and we had tea and crumpets with the Prince, and that was pretty neat. And we signed the paperwork to make three para our sister regiment. And we also did cross training. So we would post people over to 3 para, and they would do 2 weeks with them. Likewise, they would send guys to us, and also with the Swedish Army. And I had an opportunity to do 2 weeks with the Swedes, which was really interesting.
Yeah. I'm just wondering for Cyprus, if you could tell people kind of what's going on in that region at the time and why Canada was over there.
Roger. So it was one of the longest deployments for Canada. And they had the war in '74 when the Turks invaded the island. So what had happened was UN then set up a buffer zone, so split the forces, and the UN would operate in that buffer zone, stopping these two forces from engaging. By the time we got there in '86, things had slowed down. You were getting, pot shots and things like that from the Turks. So not a lot was happening. So it was a great introduction to being deployed overseas, especially for a young trooper with a few months in the Army. But the interesting thing was, before we deployed, the advance party had gone over. And the advance party, one of the sections under command of a corporal, ended up getting shenanigans, and they got captured in what's called Beaver Lodge, which is an old blown up building in the buffer zone. And they were held captive by the Turks. So they had to go in and extract these guys. And that was before the main body, before we landed. So it was like, okay, so things do happen. Roger that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But overall, nice, easy mission. That was a great experience. And then you get to meet other forces. So I linked up with the Marines who were doing Marine security at the embassy. And so we invited them out to the line for a couple of beers.
Mhm.
So we picked them up in the city, and then we driving through the buffer zone. And these Marines are like, what is going on? They're not, because they're in the city, living in an embassy. Life's
Oh,
good.
yeah.
And then we're driving through the buffer zone, and we got our guns, and things are, blown up buildings, sandbags everywhere. These guys were freaking out. Like, good to go, guys. And we're hosting them at a barbecue, and there's a minefield right beside us. And yeah, the Marines were kind of uncomfortable. And then they're like, okay, you guys can have that job.
Yeah. Yeah. Welcome to the shit out here.
Yeah.
So Cyprus, you come from there back to Canada, and you take several courses, right? So it's just looking at the bio here. You have recce course, sergeant course, and free fall, all kind of back to back.
Yeah, so it's very lucky. Well, I was, working hard, so recognized, and got put on the reconnaissance course. I had my communications course from battalion prior, which is a pre-rec for recce. And they sent myself and one other a fellow from 3 Commando, Master Corporal, and I'm a trooper. And they went to the reconnaissance course run by the 1st Battalion Royal Canadian Regiment in London, Ontario. And that was a great course. It was run hard. It was all ex-airborne regiment guys running it. And we're the only 2 airborne guys on it. So, of course, we're not quitting, and we're going to, do well. But that was a very well-run course. We used 4 different training bases. So it was a lot of travel, and we're executing all the missions of a reconnaissance platoon plus a mechanized reconnaissance platoon. So the whole ECF cycle, which is every specialty course we run in the fall, they're maneuvering to different training areas as well. So one of the roles as a mechanized reconnaissance unit, you're doing the route recce's, and you're setting up the routes to move everybody to these different bases. So we got exposure to that portion, as well as all the dismounted stuff we did. And the navigation portions, phenomenal. Every phase of navigation, from navigating with your own hand-drawn maps and no compass. You're just using dead reckoning, and then moving up to compass and topo maps. And back then we didn't have the GPS, so it was all good navigation skills.
And just for listeners, so the recce course is like the big component of is navigation. And
yeah, we're doing all the recce's, area recce's, route recce's. So we're setting up assault lines and everything a reconnaissance soldier needs to do, and doing it with no sleep and 1 meal a day and heavy packs. So that sets the conditions for all your courses moving forward.
Okay.
It's a hard course. It's a gut check, and you're learning a lot. And of course, I was just talking about this week, is you have your resistance to interrogation training at the end of the course. So of course, they always do it when you're being out for a straight week. It's beginning of November. You've got rain, snow, you're soaked, you're tired, and then you get forcibly captured at a partisan link-up. So you're a contained audience.
Mm-hmm.
And they had us, we're in Meaford, so you can appreciate you got Lake Superior there, and it's freezing rain. It's Forrest Gump rain coming sideways. Your gas mask is on, lenses are taped, hearing protection on, and wasn't really the program they have now is far superior, far, I think, harder, and definitely controlled evolutions within it. And back in that day, it wasn't as controlled, so there was a bit more free reign from interrogation force. So you'd be standing in waist deep water, freezing your butt off. But I have to say, it was very professional in the way the the staff were not talking.
Okay.
So you're feeling isolated, and they would just come around and touch you or grab you and then turn you 90 degrees and then put you back down with no talking. And about 8 hours later, you'd be put into a warm tent for questioning.
Huh.
And then you just brought back and forth. And of course, at the beginning, you have the troops are resisting and swearing, like, kind of fighting back, because that the only file they have in their head is from what they see in movies, not reality.
Yeah.
So you can hear these, the bravado of guys, and then 5-6 hours later, you don't hear anything anymore.
And that,
so you just think you're the only guy. And then throughout the exercise, they give you the statement of, this isn't part of the course. This is a volunteer only exercise. You can put this in any time.
Mhm.
But of course, in your head, you're like, okay, that's a play. They're gonna, I've done 8 weeks on this course. I'm not going to go, okay, yeah, I don't want to do this anymore. Well, especially being airborne regiment, you're sticking with it. At the end of it, I think there was 3 of us left that actually were left standing.
wow.
So it was a true statement. It was volunteer.
Mm-hmm.
However, I just remember they literally had to lift me up into the vehicle. It was myself, the other member from the regiment, and a guy from the RCR. And anyways, we get into the barracks, and they had hot soup for us, and you got your canteen cup. My hands were so bloody cold, I couldn't even hold the cup. I just dropped it right away. Yeah, I still remember to this day. It was a great experience, but a horrible experience.
What was your big takeaway? What did you learn from PW training, prisoner of war training, Tim?
Was to never be captured.
Bingo.
And it worked, because let's fast forward to the section commander course. So the same thing at the end of the section commander course, partisan link up, and I'm like, I've been here before, and we get forcibly captured. And they're moving us in the MLVW. It's wintertime. We're on the other side of the training area in Petawawa, on the other side of the highway. And myself and Greg Forsyth, we escape and jump out of that. And no snowshoes. You're in waist deep snow. We're good 12K. We just pumped it. I'm not going through this again.
Yeah, exactly.
And we made it to the highway. We ended up hitchhiking. Got me to my house, where I linked up with my wife and my son, who was like about a year old at the time. And we look like Auschwitz victims. We lay on the floor, we're frozen. And then my wife cooked us up a couple of steaks, and we slept for a couple hours. And I phoned base saying, okay, this is who we are. We're safe. We're good to go. Where do you want us to go?
Was that allowed? Were you allowed to just skip that part? Like, if you could get away, then they're like, hey, good on you. You got away.
Yeah. Because we kind of had a prompt. So Sergeant Gretzky, he's like, you can escape. You can escape.
Oh, good on.
Yeah, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Because that was miserable. And that file was fresh in my head, because that was only, 9 months prior that I went through that training.
I'm surprised guys aren't throwing fists trying to get out of there then.
That's one of the 2 values of resistance to interrogation, or PW training, is it absolutely motivated me to never, ever be caught under any circumstances that I could prevent. I mean, if you're knocked unconscious and you wake up in zip ties, okay. But it motivated you to do everything you could in preparation to not ever get caught.
Yeah.
Whether it was in training or actual operations.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's effective.
So after you're doing this training, what's kind of the next evolution for you? What's the next step?
After recce, then what happened was Pathfinder Platoon selects, and basically it's like a draft from the commando to get picked into Pathfinders. Excuse me. So I was very lucky, and my name went forward, and the platoon selected me. So I got cross-posted over to Pathfinder Platoon, which was fantastic position to be in, because the NCO was over there. So I went over there as a trooper. I left there as a master corporal. And I have to tell you, the leadership in the commando is amazing. And then you go over to a Pathfinder platoon and you got these guys, they just live, breathe, eat this stuff. And their leadership, the way they train you is amazing. We're just right down to a simple thing of marshaling helicopters, when the helicopter's coming in, giving it direction, left, right, coming down.
Okay.
I remember my master corporal, he's like, have you ever done this before? I'm like, nope. He goes, okay, I'm going to show you. So I got my own helicopter and I'm moving this helicopter around. I'm like, this is amazing. And same thing with working with the artillery and calling in artillery, actually getting an opportunity to shoot the gun as well. So you get brought into all these extra specialties of, they want you to know all this.
Tim, can you just describe for everyone what the role of Pathfinder platoon is in the regiment?
So Pathfinders is basically an extension of reconnaissance. It is a reconnaissance platoon, but the neat thing with Pathfinder platoon is it's training you to establish more than what we've done in the battalion. So we've added in setting up beachheads, drop zones, landing zones, extraction zones, working with maritime forces. So it's essentially you're doing everything related to airborne operations. On top of that, the nice thing is you're actually moving as a platoon. And when we move as a platoon, we're now a fighting patrol because we're a large group. And as we move as a fighting patrol into a position, say we're setting up a drop zone, then every element has a different job. Security, RVs, drop zone, party. And then we can all meet up. Then we have our subsequent task of doing our recruit recce's for the commandos to their objectives, the objective recce's, and then the extraction recce's. Once that's all done, then we leave small elements in play, and then we come all back in RV at the DZ. We pick up the commandos after they've jumped in and then lead them to all those positions, which is really great for the commandos because now the commandos don't have to navigate at all. All they can do is follow us. We put them in play, get them into action, and then we stand behind the scenes as they do their attacks. And then once they consolidate, we lead them into their extraction zone or further on missions. So basically in Pathfinders, you're never sleeping. You're just moving from position to position to position.
Yeah, so basically the Pathfinders insert ahead of the airborne regiment and prepare the battlefield, place for them to get into the battlefield, whether it's helicopter zone, landing zone, drop zone, beachhead, whatever other way of insertion. And also, like Tim says, how to get from the insertion point to the objective, how to set up to attack the objective and then extract back out. Which means that a trooper like Tim would have to know, he might be tasked with figuring out where the commandos are all going to line up and where their machine gun fire support base is going to be. So a major with 15 years of experience shows up with his 150 commandos, and there's Trooper Tim going, yeah, sir, you should put your fire base there and your troops should all line up on the assault line here, and here's your place for your RV. And 95% of the time, the major goes, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what's expected of the average trooper in a Pathfinder platoon.
Yeah, and actually that happened to me on my first outing with Pathfinders, and I'm briefing the OC of one commando, and here I am, the trooper, and he's like, "Yeah, Roger that,
yeah,
moving," and I think that's one of the testaments to the airborne regiment and our way of thinking. There is doesn't matter what rank you are, if you're in that position, the leadership knows you know what you're doing, and they listen to it. Because if you're not listening to it, then what's the point of having that force?
Exactly. You know what? And I like how you kind of point out, like it sounds like there's a lot of reconnaissance, I guess, at the beginning, but then you are heavy logistics on the back end where you're moving everything around. So that's a really unique position, really neat kind of thing. And talking about the ranks and listening to people, it's like, yeah, you got them there for a reason.
Yeah.
You should maybe listen to them. That's what you trained them for.
And the real great thing about it is back in that day, we didn't have crypto radios. So we're using codes, and almost everybody in Pathfinder platoon is carrying a bloody radio that you never use. because everything is off timings.
Okay.
So even if you don't know where your other elements are, because everybody knows the plan, everybody has the timings, you just assume everybody is in place for those timings and you execute on those timings.
Okay.
So for instance, if we're doing a regimental drop, we have 1, 2, and 3 commando out there all hitting a different objective. And they're all hitting those objectives at the same time. So say if H hour, our attack hour, is 0300, you'll hear across that whole training area at 0300, flares are going, machine guns are going, and everyone's making their hit.
Okay.
So you're running everything off timings, and it's just such a great thing to see.
And it's an autistic level of planning.
It is.
We joke that like the invasion of Normandy on D-Day was a 4-page op order. A Pathfinder platoon, 21 phases of battle procedure to go on a 4-man reconnaissance patrol was like 28 pages.
Mm-hmm.
So it really was just the same things. I mean, we talked about fundamentals off air, but it was the same fundamental soldier skills to an infinitely deeper level.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the same thing. And in the end, the platoon was also the commander's pocket platoon and in extreme force. So because of the specialized insertion training of free fall or working with subs or whatever else, if there was a platoon size, very specialized tasking, then the platoon could be called upon, which we did in operations to do specialized direct action or strategic level reconnaissance missions.
Mm-hmm.
So it was it was kind of the best place to be in the regiment.
I remember seeing my first exposure to Pathfinders. I was a platoon signaler, and I'm co-located by headquarters, and I'm seeing these guys coming in and out of headquarters continuously. And I remember seeing one guy, he's just bagged, and he's like, "Well, no sleep again." I'm like, "Who are those guys?" I'm like, "Well, that's Pathfinder platoon." I'm like, "Oh, Roger that. Okay, I want to be there." I could see that they were tired and miserable, but loving it at the same time.
They look miserable. I'm in.
Yeah.
I think that speaks to the kind of person you are, though, right? There are some people who would see that and be like, I want nothing to do with that. I'm going the opposite direction. Some of these opportunities, and even over like your next couple of years, just you work with the Skyhawks parachute team, you're posted back to Pathfinders and to Commando. I'm just wondering, like, for all the movement that you do, is it always someone approaches you and says, "Hey, you should come work here," or are you seeking out a lot of these opportunities? And I'm just wondering, like, how much moving across Canada are you doing for all this too?
Yeah, moving across Canada doesn't come into play. You're posted to the regiment in Petawawa. But what I did do is after free fall, and during our free fall course, you are encountering the Skyhawks guys. And I'm like, hey, again, what is this? So I want to seize every opportunity I can.
Okay.
And so in Pathfinder platoon, I just look at, the Canadian Forces General Orders comes out and says, hey, we're looking for volunteers to join the Skyhawks. This is the prerequisites. This is what you need. Put in your memo. So I'm in. So I threw my memo in and got it. And the interesting thing on that one was the Skyhawks was formed by mostly airborne regiment members in 1968. And it's to all trades, all environments. So Navy, Air Force, Army can go to the Skyhawks. However, in 1990, the year I went, it was the first time since 68 that it was all airborne regiment members.
Oh, really? Okay.
Really?
So that was kind of a neat thing. A bit of a history.
Was there a reason for that at that time, or it just worked out?
No, I think it just worked out that way because it's basically people submitting their memos, and then it moves forward to the team. And I guess that year it was just airborne regiment people putting the names in.
Okay.
And again, that was great for the airborne regiment to allow 8 guys to be detached for the year. Okay,
so can you explain a bit about this Skyhawks? Because I'm not too sure what they do, and I think you're the first person I've talked to that's been in there. So, what is their kind of function, or what are they doing?
So they're basically a public relations team. It's the Canadian Forces parachute team, the Skyhawks, and what we do is we travel to the big air shows. We travel to small towns. We'll jump in at a softball league. Anybody who puts it in a request and it gets accepted, we will go and do it.
So you could be flying into CFL games or
Yeah.
whatever else there might be, right?
Yeah, we've jumped CFL games. We've jumped into football games in the States.
Oh, wow.
You do the large air shows, which is, a lot of fun because you get to see the air show and all the workings behind it and the logistics. I enjoy that portion. You're signing autographs. You're doing a lot of radio and TV interviews. You got to take a course to learn how to do those. It is a lot of fun, and like everything improves and skills get better because skydiving's still growing and it's continuously getting better.
Mm-hmm.
And in 1990, we kind of ramped up what the team does. There was a lot of good techniques coming in, and now this year, like the team now, I mean, the amount of crew they do, the canopy relative work, is insane. Like their skill levels now are just incredible. And we'll take you onto the team with only 25 skydives. That should get your basic A license or your military freefall course. So they'll take you from the most minimum level, take you to the training camp in Paris Valley, California, and bring you up to a demonstration parachutist level in like 8 weeks.
So are these the guys that are like, you can do flips around and everything, right? Okay.
Yeah. So we'll hook our canopies together. That's called canopy relative work.
Mm-hmm.
And you can do down planes where you take your canopies and they'll face the ground and go straight down to the ground.
Wow.
And you're going like 50 kilometers an hour under canopy. And you can invert your canopy. So if you're on a side by side, you can bring your canopy down and it will stay inflated upside down because it's a ram air canopy.
So who figured this stuff out in the first place, though? Who's the one who wanted to test that out?
I don't know, but I thank them for doing it because it's a great sport.
Yeah. I would be like, I would imagine just drawing this on a board and you're like, it works theoretically. So let's try it. Like, no, not for me.
And so just to go back to that. So when I told you I did my adventure training in 82 skydiving, I wasn't even really in the Army at the time. My jump instructor was Eileen Vaughn, who was a world champion at that time. And she ended up being the second female Skyhawk. I always thought she was the first and she wasn't. She was the second female Skyhawk. And she joined the Queen's Own Rifles in order to go to the Skyhawks.
Okay.
So she was an administrative officer with the Queen's Own.
Wow. Yeah, I remember. So in the last episode that you were on, you talked about her and some of the accomplishments in there. Very cool. I'll have to put a link up if I can find some history on her. If she's got like a Wikipedia page or something.
Oh, she probably does.
Yeah. So for you do a little bit of bouncing around. You do the Skyhawks, posted back to Pathfinders and to Commando. But then you have in 94, promoted to sergeant, then overseas to Croatia.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a bit about this deployment, what's kind of happening in the world and where you're at, and then what it looks like when you start going over there?
Yeah. We were training for Croatia for the 94. We went to the States. We were doing up to battle group level live fires with F-18s dropping 500 pounders, maneuvering the whole battalion live. That was fantastic. And getting ready to go over there. So what was happening was, the Croatians and the Serbs, the invasion, they're killing each other. Mm-hmm. And UN forces are now pushed over there. And I hate the term peacekeepers because we're not peacekeeping, we're peace enforcing. We're getting shot at. And we had a few guys get killed overseas, a few wounded, but that doesn't get reported back home.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing on that one, we were in flight. Our rules of engagement during training was basically your typical UN rules of engagement. Everyone get issued a card, and the card would be like a accordion. And it would be, this is what happens if this happens. Check, check, check. Next thing. Like, someone's shooting at you. Are you going through this checklist? Okay, wait, C. Well, no, we can't fulfill C. We got to go to D. So that was kind of hokey. And so what had happened was we were flying across and the rules of engagement changed in the air. So before we had landed, the rules of engagement changed. So it's a big UN thing in New York with lawyers and all that good stuff. But they ramped up the game. And then our rules of engagement were actually quite good. And it was, if a gun was leveled at you, you could engage.
Oh, okay.
Whereas before, you would be, take rounds and you'd have to go to your accordion rules of engagement. So now that's gone. So now it's pretty simple.
You know what? And just on that, I always wonder where those rules, like how they decide this. It's like, because especially in policing, if someone points a gun at you, like it only takes one round to kill you. So it's strange to me that, maybe it's just the thinking we have now, but it's strange to me to think like you have to take shots first. Maybe, if you don't die, then you can return fire. And it's just like, I don't know, it seems like pointing a gun is pretty intentional. So yeah, I was just wondered about that. And Ben, we talked about this, the peacekeeping versus peacemaking on prior podcasts. So it's a good point that you bring that up.
Yeah, it's, I don't know how those rules of engagement are made, but that's my own opinion is I don't find the UN very effective. And it's a big money pit.
Yeah.
The countries are making money on the UN. So the UN is not really effective for the amount of money that's paid into it and for what the outcome is.
Yes.
However, sorry, go ahead, man.
Yeah, straight up. There's UN missions running in Africa right now. The constituent countries that are there, the soldiers mean well, but the reality is the country they represent doesn't want the conflict to end because they are making millions of dollars in the country being paid by the UN, funded by Western countries to have their soldiers there. If they were able to resolve the conflict and broker the peace, that would end that source of funding for the country. So it is an industry in many ways.
Absolutely.
What do you think the people on the ground really think about this? Like, and what your experience there, is that stuff that they're really concerned with at all at that time? Or is that just like, that's some dude's way off in some other city and I'm just here and I'm taking care of business?
So that's another good point. So as Ben said, the countries who are sending soldiers, like some of these third world countries, they're making money off each individual soldier. Likewise, where a UN force is deployed, that country is also making money by having an occupying force coming in because they're supplying logistics.
Oh, okay.
They're supplying translators. They're supplying cooks. They're supplying janitors. So it's a gravy train for them as well. And of course, they overcharge and we overpay. And then for any damages, we pay. So it's an industry for them as well. So these third world countries often don't want the UN to leave because of the amount of people being employed by the UN and hotels. And what's all the add-ons to a UN mission? You have all the NGO forces, right? Non-government organizations that are in there, putting tons of money into the country that's not actually going to the people.
Well, yeah, we see that a lot, right? Like all these humanitarian missions, and you're like, some of them are doing good.
Yeah.
Some of them,
and then you have the EU, the EU organization that's there, and they're all staying in 5-star hotels. They have all brand new Land Rovers. It's just a big money pit.
So, your time there, what kind of missions or things are you going out on? What did it look like for you? What's kind of daily life?
Yeah, we would be running observation posts all along the line. So kind of like a similar thing to Cyprus, where you have a buffer zone. And one side you have the Serbs, the other side you have the Croatians. The Croatians were definitely a more professional force, even though they blew us up a few times and run their shenanigans. And the Serbs is more of a archaic system. Less professional system, more like a militia. They're not well dressed. They're very drunk all the time. But we were actually our forward operating base was actually in the Serbian country on that side, and we'd push out to our OPs and run an OP for 4 days straight. And then your second in command would come out with his troops and then take over the OP. You'd go back to the forward operating base for basically rest and refit, and then follow on duties. Like you still be conducting patrols out of there and any other task issued. So it's just continuous, and you're continuously building because when we took over that mission, as I said, the ROE changed. So did the OPs. So we were actually building our OPs. So when you're out at your observation post, in between patrolling on foot, we are filling sandbags and building bunkers.
Okay.
So it's just continuous work, 24/7 for those 4 days you're out there. And you're building those OPs up. And then you're patrolling So when you go back to your forward operating base, then when you go out on follow-on patrols, you were patrolling from OP to OP to OP in your vehicle.
What are the people on the ground like? Like one side or the other? What are they like to deal with? Are they friendly to you? You know, because maybe they don't mind having you there, and they know kind of you're not there to fight them. But what was that like?
Well, overall friendly, and
Yeah.
In between taking pot shots at you and setting up mines. I don't know if I told you on the other podcast. We got there, and I found a Croatian company headquarters
Okay.
in our area, and they were not supposed to be there. And I'm on a foot patrol with just 4 guys, and we make our way there. There was a couple trip wires out that we had to step over. I'm like, okay, yeah, all right. So obviously something's in this area, and there was like a high road and a low road. So we traveled up the high road, and then we went down the low road, and then all of a sudden out of the bush, enemy forces, or we called them belligerents, came out onto the road. And we had a chat. And what happened was I reported the company headquarters, got back to my observation post. Luckily, a combat engineer M113 armored vehicle had gone up the high road while I was back at my OP, and it set off anti-purse mine. There was no casualties. So they had set up this mine for my next patrol.
Yeah.
So we managed to get that headquarters removed. And then my name was notorious in that area for, not giving these guys the freedom of movement. They weren't supposed to have freedom of movement. And I had ended up not kind of screwing over the mafia, the Serbian mafia in that area.
Okay.
And I wasn't allowing their freedom of movement. And then they put a hit out on me. They wanted me dead.
So you're getting a mix in there of not just military kind of elements and people, but you also have to worry about the organized crime element that's in that area.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was worried, and I think I hit on the last one. It was when I got back to Calgary, I'm worried like these guys are going to be looking for me. And luckily nothing came of that. But anyways, they gave me the nickname, the Big Chief, because I stopped their freedom of movement of criminal activity.
Is that something that they even told you ahead of time, like before you go?
No, we knew nothing about that part.
Really? Okay.
So that was an interesting thing that happened and to be aware of. And the other thing that I ran in my section was Zemnik Crossing. So we would run body exchanges and prisoner of war exchanges in this OP. So elements of the EU. So again, talking about the money pit of the UN.
Yeah.
The EU guys were living on the Croatian side, which is beautiful. It's 5-star resorts, and they drive in their brand new Landies to link up to do the body exchanges or prisoner of war exchanges. And these guys are making big bucks. So anyways, from this OP, we had the Croatians blew up one of our ILSs, killed one and wounded another. The other OPs, basically I was in that OP for about 3 months. So we had a bunch of shenanigans. We had another thing. We got mortared at night. So we know what outgoing mortars sound like, and then incoming, crump, crump, crump.
Yeah.
Again, it shows you the ineffectiveness of UN. So of course they send out these UN officers the next day to do a debrief with me. I give them all the info, my azimuths to the outgoing, all that good stuff, and distance because of the time from launch to impact. You can do that calculation and get a rough distance to where the outgoing was.
Okay.
And all the data I had, everything I had, I couldn't sell it to these guys. One guy's from Africa, another guy's from Spain. Like the African, they have UN in their own country dealing with them, yet this guy's deployed on this mission. So, and of course, they didn't buy it. And so it's like, yeah, roger that. So we got a patrol together, and we pulled into that area of concern that just through doing our distance and azimuth, and we actually found where the mortar base plate was, but nothing was done about it. But I mean, that kind of thing, that's just harassment fire. And then, of course, it's just all minefields around us. So you have to stay on the hard pack there.
Yeah. That is quite interesting. When you bring that up about you're like, hey, here's this problem, and then just nothing done about it. That's kind of been my experience talking to everybody on these podcasts, and when they talk about the UN and just what exactly they're there for. It seems like a very hard pill to swallow sometimes, especially when you're trying to save lives and you're not allowed to do things to protect people that you think you should be doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get that.
Did you ever feel, Tim, like your hands were tied? Like, I mean, in a civilian context, two neighbors disagree, the cop shows up, backed by a ton of resources if necessary, and generally they have authority to solve the problem. UN peacekeepers are there at the permission of both or multiple sides of the parties, multiple sides of the conflicts. Did you ever feel like your hands were tied or constrained in your ability to do things?
Oh, absolutely. But, as you do, we circumnavigate that and you make a tactical decision to where you can do something. For instance, if rounds are going towards a town and you can't do anything about it, then we move our vehicle. So now we're in between that town and now we're taking rounds. Now we can do something. It's just on how you manage that ROE.
That's a good question there. Okay, so Croatia, how long are you there for? And then what does the end of that look like for you?
So that's a 6-month tour. And, you get follow-on tasks. So again, when you're back in the forward operating base, you have other tasks. So I got tasked with doing air reconnaissance a couple of times. So I'm flying in UN like Bell Jet Ranger, iOS style aircraft with UN pilot. And we had one of the sections was in town, living in an ACO trailer, and the Serbs came through and tried to blow it up while these guys were on patrol. And then they ended up getting in a contact. So I'm up in this Iowa with this pilot who's an ex-Vietnam pilot who's half his ears melted off because he's being shot down in Vietnam.
Jeez.
And we're flying over this and watching the enemy moving in onto this section, and they're shooting back and forth. And he's like, I don't want to get too close. I've been shot down before. I'm like, hey, either do I, man. Let's just observe here. So you kind of get those kind of shenanigans happening. And so one day we get tasked with another air reconnaissance mission, but I had a Huey attached. So I'm like, hey, can I bring my guys? So I had a lot of young lads that never even been in a helicopter before. And so here we are off flying around, just checking the line in the helicopter. So the boys are having fun. And until we nearly crashed, because the pilot wasn't paying attention, because he's doing his thing. I'm looking out. I'm like, holy crap, wire. High tension wires there. And he just pulls the aircraft and we go straight up. The buzzers are going, and then we level out and then carry on. I'm like, whew, that was close. And then I'm thinking in my head, okay, I just took my boys out for a joyride and we nearly died. So,
Boy, is that like when you're kind of winding down in your mission there? How do they are they pulling everybody out of that area, or was it just your time to leave?
No, it's just a relief in place. So the next unit coming in will take over those observation posts. So they come in, so their advanced party comes, and then main one will come over, and then we start doing our left and right seat rides and take them on patrol and get in the lay of the land. So it's kind of like the sergeant that's taken over from me will then come over and then go on patrol with me and watch what's happening. He'll do that for a week, and then we switch around. Then he will lead those patrols with me watching and mentoring.
Oh, okay.
And then we leave, and now they're set up for success. Whereas when we got there was no relief in place. We just kind of took over the vehicles, and we had a new mandate, new area of operations, and we just made this thing happen.
Well, yeah, that's what I was kind of wondering. Would have been my next question is, how do you do a handoff with this stuff? So it sounds like you guys did it the right way. It's just too bad when you landed, you didn't get that kind of opportunity.
Yeah, it's that was a crazy one because we took over from the Van Dues, and I have to say the vehicles were in a really bad state. The ammunition was in a bad state. We had to basically switch everything out. And again, we took over OPs that they had left. So we occupied the Vandu OPs for about 2 weeks. And because our mission had changed, it was still being developed because it changed when we were in the air. So now it's being developed on the ground. So we only had those areas for 2 weeks, and then we moved in to set up our own positions. But yeah, the handover was not very good.
Okay. So after Croatia, you then come back and you get into a lot of training elements throughout your career. So what kind of led you into that portion of your career, and what was that like? Because you're going from like being in some battles to I call it slowing down. So and I know what it's like to be a police training officer. You're going from high flying. I'm going all high calls, and I know what I'm doing, and it's great. And then it's like, hey, train this person, and I go from 100 miles an hour to 1. So it's very different. But what was that like in your experience?
Well, I think what sets us apart from policing, especially in the infantry, is as a master corporal and above, as a leader, we're all trained instructors. We're all trained to be instructors. That's our priority. So we can fall into that instructor position easily. It's part of our job.
Yeah.
So prior to actually moving into an instructor position, you've taught on multiple courses. So that's the nice thing about the infantry is we're jack of all trades, master of none. And so I've been sent to the battle school quite a bit from battalion in order to instruct recruit courses and specialty courses, things like that. Then an opportunity came up to be posted to the school, and I'm like, yeah, I'll take it because I love to teach.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was actually a great step for us and for the family, because then I was actually home and you're doing great stuff every day and getting great opportunities. And that's how I ended up getting on the sniper course. I was out there teaching on a course from battalion, and there was a sniper course coming up. There was an instructor that was at the battle school who was loaded on that course, and he didn't want it. And it's a volunteer course. He was being forced onto this course. So it's a hard enough course as it is. And your mental state is, I don't want to be here. You're probably not going to be successful.
Yeah.
So my light goes on, and I'm like, well, I know I'm posted here 3 months from now. How about I take that guy's position?
Mm-hmm.
So I was just walking by the OC's office one day. I'm like, hey, sir, can we chat? He goes, yeah, sure, come in. I said, listen, this sergeant doesn't want this course, and he's posted in a year. I'm posted here in a few months. How about I take his position? And if successful, you've got a sniper instructor for the next 5 years.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. But I was still in battalion at the time. So he made the call to battalion. So the battalion had to send me on this course, not the battle school, because I'm still with the battalion.
Okay.
And that comes from their budget. So thankfully they agreed. And yeah, hey, roger that. We'll send them on the course. So that was an opportunity made.
Yeah. Well, that can be definitely difficult when it comes to who's paying for it.
Yeah. So that just worked out, and fortunately made it. Three of us passed out of the 14 on course. And it's all history from there.
Just a bit back on the training thing though, for yourself, having gone through a lot of different experiences to this point, what kind of trainer were you, or how would you describe your style?
My style is very aggressive, very,
very aggressive.
very aggressive,
Yeah.
and very on point. And I got in trouble a few times for that. I got to pull the reins in a bit, but
where does that come from? Like what made you?
All the building blocks of all the such commanders I've had, staff I've had. What makes you a good leader is taking all those good pieces from all the leaders that you've had, and likewise rejecting all the bad things you've seen and getting rid of those and taking on that style of instruction which one do you prefer? I've been really blessed and had an amazing instructors and amazing session commanders throughout my career that I could take all those elements from.
Yeah.
So that's basically from that style.
There's a line in the Airborne Creed that was written to describe paratroopers, and Tim always took it to heart and then exhibited it as his own personal style of leadership. And that's It is an offensive eagerness. Sorry, infectious optimism and offensive eagerness. So no matter how big of a shit sandwich it is, Tim is able to encourage everyone to take a great big bite, just like he did, and he leads them forward into that. And people respond to that, because even a bad plan executed enthusiastically is going to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter where Tim is, he's always exuded that example of infectious optimism and offensive eagerness, and young men in particular respond to it in spades.
Yeah.
It's something to see.
Yeah, I wonder, like, nowadays, just because it's very heavy on adult learning, both military aspects and even in policing, and it's like, what is the right balance, right? At what time should someone get a kick in the ass, as opposed to what time do you need to kind of pull them aside and just be like, hey, I'm here to listen to something, whatever the issue is. And I think a lot of people, maybe it's from movies and Hollywood, they think military was just, everybody's like that super strict sergeant major, making you march everywhere and hard on you. But is that the most effective way to get across to the membership? So yeah, I just always wonder, what kind of leader are people, and then how do they see themselves and their style, where that comes from. So those very good points.
The thing with adult learning, though, has its place.
Yeah.
Particularly in the infantry, when you're training a basic infantry soldier, adult learning doesn't come into play, because we have to teach them, we have to guide them, they have to know how it's executed. So you have to demonstrate, you have to explain and demonstrate and execute, and then they have to repeat that. Where the adult learning comes into play is when you get into more leadership things, where we need to see, if I need to send you a study package, can you actually read that and do it on your own without timings and someone going, study now?
Yeah.
So that's where the adult thing comes more into play in leadership courses.
Yeah.
Because we're not, like, good example, in policing, I'm not going to give you adult learning in shooting.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go, hey, here's the gun, here's the PAM, batter boys. We'll meet back here next week and we'll do the test. No, it's a skill we have to teach.
Mm-hmm.
We have to guide. We have to mentor.
There's a lot of skills in the military, and I'm going to guess policing, that are relatively simple skills, but they have to be executed under the worst, most extreme, stressful conditions.
Yeah.
Like Tim's example of shooting. And those have to be taught directly. So when the young soldier hears enemy fire snap by his head for the first time, he knows that, like, this is 45 years ago for me. 40 years ago for me, it was like double tap down, dash, crawl, observe, sights, fire, communicate. That happens instinctively. And that level of training, the direct, stereotypical movie-like teaching of yelling at people, that probably has its place. When you get into more advanced levels, like Sniper, like Pathfinder, there's nobody yelling at you, because it's 100% up to you.
Yeah.
Like if you have to, if you had to, like, maximally supervise an officer at every moment, is that the person you want out on a call? Is that the person you want standing in front of a major saying, hey, sir, you need to put your fire base here, you need to put your assault line there, and the enemy's over there? No. So both have their place in both external discipline, but external discipline is always only there to instill internal discipline.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I've always admired about Tim's leadership style, is he has that infectious optimism, and that he demonstrates, he verbalizes, but he also demonstrates with his every fiber of his being what a good soldier is and how they behave, and that's real leadership.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around how you did a double tap with a black powder rifle 40 years ago.
Bow and arrow, buddy.
Well, speaking of make sure you hold yourself accountable and stuff, you do the sniper course, and then you get your master sniper 1997. You and Ben go on a competition together. You want to talk a bit about this?
Yeah, so it was actually really cool, because Ben and I got to go on Master Sniper together.
Okay.
And that was a great experience. And I have to say, I was a brand new sniper at the time. So I'm going on a course with, guys like Ben, Blake Ives, who are being snipers for a while. So at the same time, yeah, I'm on this advanced course, but I'm learning from these guys at the same time. And that's what you have to do as a good sniper, as good at anything. You have to go, well, I have this course. Yeah, big deal. What do you do with this course? How do you extract more? That's what makes us good, is we look at guys like Ben, Blake, the rest of the guys, and go, oh, I like what he's doing. And I'm going to try that. So that was a really, excuse me, neat experience. Master Sniper was a fantastic course. We're doing advanced shooting, advanced tactics, and then people don't expect. You're doing, 30-page operation orders and planning, because we are now a brigade asset. So we are planning at brigade level, which was a thing those guys from the Special Forces, when the American Special Forces, had a hard time with. Those guys were up all night writing these orders. And I'm like, don't you guys? No, we don't do this level. I'm like, okay. Again, another thing of how Canada does it just a bit better.
Yeah.
However, fast forward to Ben and I are now going on the international competition. That was a great lead up, because we got to work together on the Master Sniper, and we worked well together. And then we got back to Wainwright. We had the opportunity to go in this competition. We wrote up our own training schedule. The battle school was fantastic, and they gave us basically free reign. We had ranges, and they're like, yeah, go take the time, go to the ranges. And when we weren't at the main ranges, we were at the indoor range shooting 22 caliber. So we really prepped hard for this. It was actually great opportunity. And I'll let Ben take over from here, but both Ben and I's expectation going to this competition, because there's special forces units from around the world on this thing. And I'm a new sniper. Only 3 of us made it out of my sniper course. I still didn't feel like I was worthy. And then my partner's a combat veteran sniper. So I'm still learning. And it was really neat. I went in there with the expectation of learning, not winning. So I took that winning expectation in my head and threw it out. I think that's what made it successful for us. We both went there with, man, this is going to be awesome. We're going to learn so much from everybody else. And we didn't put that pressure on ourselves.
Yeah.
And our prep prior was amazing.
We were by far the best prepared team, and that was a huge part of why we were successful in winning multiple events, and then the overall thing and top Canadian team and the rest. But Tim's right, is the main thing is we didn't focus on outcome. We focused on process. So we didn't focus on, oh my God, we might lose, or how do we win this so we can get the most points and blah, blah, blah. No, we were there to do the job. What's our process? Okay, let's get that tree between us and the observation post so we can stalk in. Let's make sure that we prepped our gear. Let's talk for an extra hour before we go to bed and plan for tomorrow. So we focused on process, not outcomes, and that's what allowed us to be successful. When you're thinking about what to do next, you can't possibly think about failure.
You almost sound like you're doing Olympic level kind of planning and process at that point.
It's like we've talked in the past about mental management, and that's exactly what it is you focus on process, not outcomes, and you trust your process, and you know that you're well prepared. And the funny thing is, by preparing and I talk about Tim with his infectious optimism. Yeah, he was a sergeant. I was a master corporal. So he was the face, and he'd been in the battle school a couple years longer than me. So he was the face when him and I had to interact, when we needed trucks to go somewhere, when we needed blah 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 to carry our training. Tim was the guy who was making that happen. And we just found an empty office in the headquarters, and we pushed some desks together, and then Tim phoned up the base telephone exchange, said, yeah, this is our extension for snipers. And we started sending memos to request equipment and troops and ranges and stuff. Sniper cell, sniper cell, sniper cell. So we go away to this competition, and we come back. And in the meantime, the battle school had reorganized its structure a little bit. And there, right on the end of the organization chart, was sniper cell.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'd actually created it out of nothing. We just told people that we existed. We kind of spoke it into existence, because Tim especially just behaved like, hey, we're sniper cell. This is what we're doing. And people were like, oh, okay, you're sniper cell. This is what we're doing.
Yeah, then we put the sign up and we stole
they
furniture.
put the sign up. Yeah.
And everyone's just like, oh, got a sniper cell. Cool.
Yeah, cool. That's what we do now. So it worked out.
It's funny how you can be in some of those organizations that are so rigid and structured, but if you just start doing things and people just accept it, like they just like, oh, I guess it's a thing, and then it just slowly gets out there, and you're like, oh, it's a thing now.
Yeah. Then we came back. We one of the nice things about these, like any symposium, is the face time you spend with other organizations. And we came back with a fistful of business cards and invitations to go on other competitions and symposiums and stuff. So we maximized that. We ran with that like bandits for about a year.
Yeah, awesome. So you're doing the sniper portion of your career, and when I guess over the next few years, you promote several times. When you're getting promoted, are you still doing the training stuff, or do you keep those certifications and do you just keep going back to the training school and teaching?
Yeah. Your certifications never leave you. And you're always, as I said in the infantry, you're an instructor.
Yeah.
You're always instructing. Doesn't matter what phase of your career you're in. And so the interesting thing was I ended up going back to battalion. I finished off the battle school as a Sergeant Major Leadership Training Company. I go back to battalion as a warrant officer. And we had no officers, so I'm a platoon commander in the rifle company.
Mm-hmm.
And then a year later, I end up being platoon commander in reconnaissance platoon. And then a year later, I'm a warrant officer in reconnaissance platoon. But the cool thing was I ended up teaching the sniper course as a warrant officer for Sergeant Blake Ives. Sergeant Ives is running the course as the platoon warrant. I'm there as a sesh commander, as a warrant officer working for a sergeant.
Okay.
And that's how it works.
Yeah.
Right. And as a warrant officer, I'm just running a section on sniper, but working for Blake. And Blake runs the show. And you have to have that professionalism where I'm not running this show. This is all him. It's like, what do you want me to do, Blake?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the flexibility we have and the professionalism we have. Likewise, I went back to the battle school to teach advanced winter warfare as a warrant officer. So it doesn't matter what rank or level you're at. If you're required to go teach that specialty, because there isn't many of you,
mm-hmm.
you go do it.
Well, and there's a bit of humility in that, but also it seems like the positional authority isn't a big thing until maybe you're in battle and you then got to be telling people what to do.
Well, even then, if you're in battle and there's a guy who's a lower rank who's actually in charge, then you carry on with that until that person needs assistance, right?
Yeah.
If your number 5 rifleman is the one who has the best view of the enemy, he starts calling the shots. He's doing his job.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
But that's what makes us the professionals we are, especially in the sniping world. I'm going to work for you. You're a sergeant. Tell me what to do.
Yeah.
That's just what we do to get the job done. And that's the same ethos we push to our sniper students, because we want snipers have to think for themselves. You're working in either a single man, 2-man, or 3-man team. You have to make those tactical and strategic decisions on the battlefield without other input.
Mm-hmm.
So when we teach our students, there's enough self-induced stress on everything you need to do. So it's first name basis. It's one instructor for every 2 students.
Wow.
It's first name basis with those 2 students, because I want them to be not stressed as they're doing stressful things.
Yeah.
Right. But when you do have to put the hammer down, you put the hammer down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was just down on the basic sniper course. I was invited to come in and speak a couple weeks ago, and it's exactly the same now as it was then. I mean, there's better gear, slightly different approaches to things, different emphasis, but Tim's exactly right. The students move with purpose, like they're not slacking, but the job itself is stressful enough that there's no artificially externally induced yelling or screaming. Because again, you're producing a product, a student, a sniper that's got to be able to act independently, think laterally, and be able to verbalize and persuade a commander to do what he knows is best.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't be yelling at it all the time. You've got to foster with himself as a high student to instruct. I think right now, I think they're sitting at 9 students today. And I think there's 45 staff.
Yeah.
There's that many. Yeah. From the guys who help out in the kitchen to drive the trucks, to set up the targets, to lead the instruction, do the mentoring, all of that, to produce this product that's going to be exceptional, that's going to be able to do that. And a lot of these guys are extremely young. I was shocked that this course is extremely young compared to others. Usually it's guys with 4 to 5 to 6 years in. These are guys with 2 years in. And it's neat to see them respond to the idea that they've got to stand up and brief a lieutenant colonel.
Yeah.
It's a great process to watch these young men come out of themselves and really become who they are.
I guess you don't get in expecting to do that, right? Like they don't tell you that at the very beginning, but you learn that throughout the process.
Yeah.
It's one of the few places that you would ever get to do it. The autonomy that a Pathfinder or a sniper has is fairly unique in my experience.
And that's the thing with, before you go on, I don't know if they've changed it yet, but the prereq to sniper is reconnaissance. And reconnaissance is where you've already been tortured and you've been tested and you've been given that skill set. So when you go on sniper, there's no need for any of that. So we're making these self-thinking guys. And the nice thing about both the reconnaissance and sniper is they want to be there.
Yeah.
So see, really, 2 of these courses that people want to be there. They're not there because they're being told. It's volunteer. So they're absorbing everything. They want to be there. You'll have your onesies and twosies that maybe should have gone.
Mm-hmm.
Like we do everything in our power to make these people pass. And one course I was teaching on, this young lad he wasn't listening to the staff. And cocky, and that's the guys we don't want. And literally, when you're out there walking, so you have your trained observers, then you have your 2 walkers out there, which we're wearing traffic vests. We have our radios. And we'll be moved if the OP is going to put us down onto and touch a sniper. So
Tim, you're talking about students are stalking through the woods and through the fields, trying to position themselves onto an observation post.
Okay.
And the observation post radio controls a couple guys called walkers in orange vests, and they're like drones. So if the OP sees a student sneaking up on them, they'll move the walker by radio control until the walker is touching the student, eliminating them.
Mm-hmm.
That's called a stalking exercise.
And as a walker, we will not compromise the student. We'll do our best to not exaggerate stepping over him. At times I will go, I'm going to kick your rifle because I want the OP to find them, not find them based off my movement.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll quite often as a walker go, I'll talk under my breath, go, maybe you should pick that line of advance. Maybe you should rethink this, maybe back up and go around.
Yeah.
And the good ones will do that. But this one particular lad, man, he would not listen to anything. I'm like, right, fuck it. Okay. Don't listen to the master sniper. You do your own thing, the person who's not trained and you don't know what you're doing. Don't listen to me. And he failed because he doesn't listen. And that's the people we don't want.
Well, rightfully so. I mean, you don't want someone out there that's going to be causing dangerous situations for the rest of the people.
Right.
So,
if he's not listening during training, he's going to compromise himself or someone, or as I always say, I don't care if you get yourself killed due to incompetence, but if you get your partner killed due to incompetence, then yeah.
So the next thing that kind of comes up in your career, you have 2 deployments to Afghanistan. Do you want to talk a bit about those? Because it was 2003, 2006?
Yeah. So 2003 wasn't a deployment to Afghanistan. It was a force protection gig to the United Arab Emirates.
Oh, okay.
What had happened there was our company was actually the company that was on quick reaction force. So after 9/11, we were supposed to be attached to the 3rd Battalion and going in with those guys in 2002. But what was happening was at the same time, because you can't plan for 9/11, that just happened.
Mm-hmm.
But what was happening was our battalion was tasked to go to Bosnia that year. So even though we were the company that was attached to QRF, So we were supposed to go with 3VP. Our battalion commander decides, nope, I want to take my entire battalion to Bosnia. So our company gets axed from the 202 deployment, and that company goes to the 2nd Battalion to augment. And then we're approaching our deployment for Bosnia. And then guess what happens? Higher up command, brigade, goes, we want to send an entire reserve company overseas with the battle group. So guess what? We get axed again. So I lose 2 missions in a couple of months. And I just been at the battle school for 6 years, and I missed out on a couple of missions in battalion. So I am angry.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is bull. And so what had happened was, so to give us something back, it was really good of the rear party CO. He found us a mission. So not a sexy mission, but at least it was a deployment. And we went over to the UAE for a 3-month tour. And then so there's 3 platoons in the company. So then the next platoon took over from us, and then the next platoon took over from them. So we all got a bit of a deployment. So that was actually a good little task, deployment gig at Camp Mirage. We were in charge of security of the airfield. It's not full combat, but guess what? The Australians were there as well, and they have their own, I forget what they're called. They're kind of like the Royal Air Force regiments, like their own little infantry regiment in the Air Force.
Okay.
And that was their task, was looking after the airfield. So as non-combat as it was, I'm like, well, okay, well, the Aussies actually have a trade for this. Same with the Brits to their airfields, and we're being tasked to do this. So it was a good task. We built quite a few bunkers, and vehicle checkpoints. We're scanning for bombs every day. And also follow-on missions, we were linking up with the Royal Canadian Navy. So when our ships were in town, they actually deployed clearance divers to swim around the ships. And so I'd go down there with my guys, and we would do security assessments of how well this was done. And I have to say, the Canadian Navy did it right. And, they had sea containers all piled up, double stacked, nice little serpentine to slow traffic down. They had a vehicle checkpoint. They had their boarding parties all geared up, roaming outside the ships. And the USS Nimitz was in town.
Okay.
And that had massive security on it. However, their supply ship was parked in front of our Canadian ship, and they had no security on it whatsoever. So you got this massive security detail getting into the Nimitz, but their logistics ship has got nothing covered. There's 18-wheeler flatbeds loaded up with kit saying USS Nimitz. Like, can we have the worst OPSEC ever? And no one covering or watching it. So again, Canada did it right. We got our guys are good weapon carriage, walking around the ship. I look at the American ship. There's a couple of sailors, badly dressed, holding shotguns like it's a heavy guitar. This is an inconvenience. And I'm just like, okay, why are we doing it right?
Oh, but what was their reasoning, or did anybody give one? Why is it set up?
I didn't talk to those guys. I'm just observing, going, wow, this is an easy way. I can hit this ship easy.
Yeah. Well, somebody overlooked something.
Yeah. So that was a good task. Wasn't the combat task we wanted, but at least battalion took care of us that way. And well, we basically had almost a mutiny prior to that. So again, we wanted to be at the big show. So then they gave us a big adventure training thing. So we deployed to Vancouver Island for 3 weeks. We did, scuba diving and all that good shit. And that was great. But of course, we're totally ungrateful because we just want to be in combat. And super bad attitude. And I'm pretty sure Ben remembers Brian Semenko, big beast, massive man. And he was our sergeant major. So he had to form us up and just jack us. Stop being little children. Look what we've done for you. We're taking you here. We're doing this. It's yeah, you're right, Dad.
Yeah.
But in a way, it's kind of cool when you think about it. So you have all these infantry guys. It's we just want to go to war.
Yeah.
And you've taken this opportunity away from us twice. But yeah, you gave us the adventure training. Great. But that's not a deployment.
Yep.
Right. And then we got this UAE task. So that was kind of neat. So it all worked out.
While you're doing all these things too, you married with kid at this time?
Yeah. Yeah. I've been married for 40 years.
Yeah. We're just kind of wondering, like, when you're doing all these deployments and you're always traveling for courses and stuff, what is the home life like? Like, what impact does that have?
Well, it's massive, but having an amazing wife that's supporting you, it makes it easy.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of guys didn't have the opportunity and, ended up with divorces and issues and things like that.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty blessed to have an amazing woman. And Same thing with Ben. We're both in the same boat. We've been married forever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tim and I are a very small number of people I know that did a complete career in the military. And still we were married because we have two rock star wives. Karen and my wife, Margaret, Tim's wife, Karen, my wife, Margaret, are absolute rock stars of people. And, when you were talking about what's it like when you got to 2 Commando and you asked about Tim's family, I'm like, yeah, but he brought his own adult supervision. Karen was there in the beginning and she's still there. And Tim's got a rack of well-deserved awards behind him there. But the biggest success that him and I have had is that we managed to marry exceptional women.
Yeah.
Is there like I don't know if there's like a course or something that people could go to, but what made yours successful as opposed to other ones, right? Like, is there something you could bottle it up and give it to other people? Like, what is it that keeps that together? Because I know that's always kind of a hard thing for military families, right? Like a lot of the moving or you're not home. So what is it that made yours successful?
I think it's just having good, high ethical standards, really, and focus on the family. Yeah, okay, I'm volunteering and going away and doing things, but you're focusing on family. When you're home, it's family.
Yeah.
Right?
The undivided attention.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, we call it be all there.
And including your wife on things. So when you're doing functions and all that good stuff, right? You got to include that portion.
Yeah.
Because on that downtime, if you're not, then what's it about?
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately choosing a strong person to be your partner. Like Karen understood and flawlessly executed her role at times as Sergeant Major's wife. And that's a huge leadership role that's not recognized or compensated in any way. We get to gallivant off and do these cool things in cool places with awesome people. And our spouses are stuck back home trying to keep everything from falling apart. And people like Karen are the ones who, through personal example and leadership and spoken word and example and reaching out to the other spouses that are dealing with this kind of stuff for the first time.
Okay. Yeah.
Having that strong spouse, absolutely vital. The other day I was grumpy about something and I snapped at my wife and, we've been 35 years and she just looked at me and she gave me about a 15-second blast of like, hey, you don't do that. This is me. You don't do that to me.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of strength that I want in a spouse.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And that's what I'd recommend you look for. Somebody who's at least as smart and strong and determined as you are if you're going to go into the military.
Yeah.
Well, I always wondered too, and the same for policing, but I think a lot of people, their spouse, so whether it's girls getting in, they got their husband or whatever it is, their spouse maybe has an idea of what it'll be like, but then once they're kind of in it, it's like, okay, wow, this is not for me. So maybe there is a bit of that flip in there.
Yeah, I think like Ben said, you have to find that partner that's all in. And I've seen so many guys lose their careers because of that. So policing, I remember in the Queen Zone, one of the sergeants was a Toronto policeman, and he got married, and then she's like, I don't like what you're doing. Well, you married him knowing he was this, right?
Yeah.
I probably dated him because he was that.
Yeah.
And she made him quit the job. And then after he quit the job, she divorced him. So guy lost his career.
Jeez.
So you got to be careful on how you pick.
I just wanted to point out that Tim and I have both done something pretty unique just a few years apart to recognize our spouses. At separate times, we both were fortunate enough to nominate our wives, and they both received medals from the Crown in recognition of their and the sacrifices of other military spouses. So when we get all gussied up in our best bib and tucker, our ladies are also rocking medals for their service as well.
Very cool.
Yeah, that's a good point. My wife, she went above and beyond when I was in Afghanistan, and she would go visit my troops in University of Alberta's hospital, go see all the casualties and attend funerals on my behalf. So yeah, she went above and beyond. And that's when I was like, you know what, I'm putting her in for the Queen's Jubilee.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of Afghanistan, so this is coming up right to the end of your career and be right on time for us. Can you talk about your deployment to there? So it's 2006. It says you got 2 sniper missions while you were there. Just tell us about your time there and maybe some of the people that you know that ended up coming out of that with some injury.
That was a good. It was a good mission. It was the first full combat mission since 2002. Because prior to that, the mission was in Kabul with only one rifle company in Kabul, basically doing security tasks and patrolling. And then in 2006, we were the beginning of the first battle group into Kandahar. So the logistics going into Kandahar, they weren't really set up for a battalion size at that point. We literally had only a rifle company's worth of equipment for 3 rifle companies, 3 heavy rifle companies. So the first month, we were pretty short on night vision, lasers, things like that, batteries, simple things. And anyways, that was a great mission. And because it was the first time Canada was down there, the enemy hadn't dealt with Canadians before. And also our tactics are different. So likewise, the Americans would only push out for a couple of days at a time and then come back in. Whereas what we did was we'd push out for 3 to 4 weeks at a time and operate far from Kandahar and then maneuver back into Kandahar for combat refits. So needless to say, we had a lot of direct action missions. That was our sole purpose, was Charlie Company. Task Force 106 was direct action. We didn't hunker down in a forward operating base at all. We would operate from Kandahar and push out and just go do our job. So that was, here you are, you've trained all these years. You've done some warm-up missions. And then here I am out and we're doing a company right flanking. It's like, wow, okay. So we're actually doing a live company right flanking. Got it,
yeah.
Roger. So that was pretty extreme. And that was the first one that's been done since Korea. So we had depleted a lot of our ammunition at that point. And it was a 8-hour firefight, sustained firefight. So controlling fire was a big one. At the end of that, after we sent our round count back, that actually went back to Ottawa and was like, well, okay, Roger, we need more. We need more of everything on the ground. So that's what sparked up. And thankfully, it happened early in the tour. And we ended up getting massive, like Globemaster after Globemaster brought ammo and built up our ammo supply back in Kandahar. Also, the interesting thing was our uploads in the Lab 25 cannons. We had been using HEIT as our primary, which is high explosive incendiary tracer, as our primary round.
Okay.
And our secondary round was the Sabot round.
So, sorry, Tim. So, Tim, you're talking about the LAV armored vehicles, like the 8-wheeled, heavily armored vehicles, and they've got a massive cannon on them, a 25 millimeter Bushmaster that fires a whole bunch of different types of ammo, correct?
That's right.
Right on.
So what we've done, since our primary was our HEIT, high explosive incendiary tracer, we're trying to punch it through the walls, and it wasn't working. Because those walls are like concrete. They're like 4 feet thick. So after that engagement, we're like, okay, Roger that. What we need to do is change the uploads. And so what we would do is we'd use the Sabot to punch holes into the wall and then fire the HEIT through that hole. It would then hit the next wall, explode, and burn.
Okay.
So then we found.
Can you explain what a sabo is, Tim?
So it's like a big tungsten dart. It fires out and it punches a small hole into whatever we're shooting at. So picture a large dart that you throw at the dartboard with. That's what the sabo round is.
But it's going 3,000 meters. That's 3 kilometers per second.
I couldn't tell you how fast the thing moves.
3,000 meters a second. That's an insane. It's triple the speed of a rifle round.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. So that is what's punching the holes. So we would punch these holes, make a hole so we can push the HEIT through. So that's what we learned from that engagement. Also, we had, at the end of that engagement, we dropped a 500-pound JDAM down on these guys. And what we did is we cleared the entire company off position. And, or at that time, it was 2 platoons of us and 1 platoon of ANA that ran away, Afghan National Army that ran away in battle. Because we had 8 platoon was already in contact, and they were handling their own contact at that time. And then as we moved closer to develop that contact, that's when we got hit, and we had this company position to hit. At the same time, we were throwing 155 millimeter howitzers into the position and all the cutoff positions. So all the escape routes that these guys tried to squirt out, we could destroy these guys with the artillery. So it was a well done battle, and good controlling of fire too, because we sustained that fire for 8 hours. So you can't be automatic all the way through.
Are you mixed in with the Afghan army at this time?
Yeah, we always have the Afghan army with us at all times because it's their war.
Mm-hmm.
We were invited to assist.
Mm-hmm.
And so you always have that Afghan face. But what happened on this particular event was the normal platoon that we had attached to us was tasked out. So we linked up in the middle of the desert and got these guys attached to us, and they look shady as fuck. And you can look and know. And so they ran away in battle. They ran like 3 kilometers back to the Argandab River where our B echelon was. And Company 2IC is like, hey, I got call signs running towards me. We're like, yeah, okay, we know who they are.
So if you're in battle and the force that's supposed to be, I guess, hosting you, if they all leave, do you have to stay there, or like what happens with you?
Well, the battle's on. You can't quit.
Yeah, that's sort of weird. It's just like they all left. Well, they don't want to fight their fight anymore. So it's like, well, then what are we doing here?
That's right. But no, that's not the attitude you have.
Yeah.
You carry on with the mission first, and that's it. So that's what bogged us down as well. Because we had 2 contacts happening at the same time, a platoon engaged and then us. But anyways, we controlled it. Unfortunately, one of the lads got wounded, took an AK to the femur. And but we had no one killed in action on that particular event. So after we cleared the objective of our fighting forces on with the OC, I'm the acting sergeant major at the time. And so we pull ourselves off the position. We're behind a wall with our FUFAC, and OC's like, okay, ready? I'm like, yeah, let her drop. So we have the FUFAC called in. Because the only thing going through my head, we were actually really close. We were very close to the impact. And I'm just thinking about the 3rd Battalion from O2 getting the bomb dropped on them in the rehearsal area.
So, Tim, you're talking about your forward air controller, the Air Force officer who can bring in the heat.
Yeah, he was an artillery. Yeah, he was an artillery sergeant, and so that's the only thing going through my head at the time. Is like, we're danger close, and we're going to let this one rip. Okay, I hope it hits the target, not us.
Yeah.
So when you say danger close, how close I
think we were only 200 meters or less from that, but we're behind this massive wall. So the concussion.
So was that a bomb from a fast aircraft or artillery?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Aircraft. So that was quite the explosion. We felt that. But the cool thing out of that was one of the platoons that pulled itself off position was filming it.
Nice.
So when that thing hit, you could see the concussion ripple through the sand all the way to where those guys were.
Jeez.
Right? And I'm bloody closer to this thing. Anyways, it all worked out well. I think we killed like 45 guys on that position at the end of the day, and there was 3 left over that we captured.
Oh, really?
And they were all concussed big time. But yeah, anyways, we took care of that. We did our BDA, our battle damage assessment, and we got those guys sent back to Kandahar for questioning.
So is that that runs up to the end of your time in Afghanistan?
No, that was the beginning.
That's the beginning.
I was like 3 weeks in.
Oh, wow. You got into it quick when you got there.
Yeah, right away. And it's like, okay. So anyways, we had a lot of shenanigans happen throughout, lots of contacts. We had quite a few killed in action from the company, a lot wounded. So yeah, it was a tough go, but that's what the job was at the time. I was not in a sniper billet because I'm with the company, but we did have the sniper rifle with us for the company. And so we go out on this nighttime operation, a ambush. We were doing 3 interlocked ambushes at night. I don't think you can pull this off on an exercise. We did this in combat. And we were up in the desert and we had to get to the Argandab River. But what we had to do was a feint. And we took the vehicles and we went through about 100 kilometers to come in from behind. And we dismounted from behind. And then we patrolled into our different sectors. Anyways, prior to this, I'm like, hey, sir, you're going to need a sniper on this. He goes, because I was actually sergeant major on this one as well. And he goes, no, I need my sergeant major on position. I say, yeah, roger that, you will. But I'll be on the right flank. He's like, all right, bring your sniper rifle. I'm like, thanks, sir. Jeez. And so that was kind of neat. So I didn't want to, go into a combat operation and not have this opportunity just because I'm promoted out of it. Anyways, the was very well done. We got in position. However, the enemy didn't show because of our inadequate unmanned aerial vehicle, which we bought the cheapest one off the market. So it flies low, flies slow, and it's super loud. And we call it the lawnmower. So picture the sound of a lawnmower.
Yeah.
And that just immediately put the enemy into a non-movement.
Yeah.
Because they're like, right, Canadians are out here. They're good, but their UAV sucks and it's monitoring us. So that was that. And then we had to make our way back to the Leaguer in the desert. So we went direct route. We patrolled out and we get into our Leaguer position or get into our all-round defense. We're in the desert. So I'm on the rifle and I start seeing something in the distance about 600 out, monitoring. Just taking up trigger squeeze, taking the slack out. And then buddy puts his shirt on and he's an Afghan National Police. And I'm like, thank God I didn't squeeze that trigger. So I'm just observing. I'm like, this is shady. They got the rifles. And then he got dressed. So that was like, shit. So thank God I used my observational skills well and assess that situation. So then we end up linking back up into the Leaguer where the vehicles were, because now there's Zulu. So once we dismount out of the vehicles become what we call Zulu vehicles, which is just crew on board, no fighters in the back. So they're up back in the Leaguer. What I didn't know was we were leaguered up with the artillery. So we'd been up for about 2 days at this point. So we finally get to sleep beside our vehicles. Oh, sorry. That was separate. That one, the company, the whole company was up at the Leaguer and they'd already been sleeping. I'm with the company's second in command. We got two vehicles out. We had to go help recover armored vehicles out of the Argandab River. They're Coyote vehicles, which is like the LAF 25, but a bit lighter.
Okay.
It's a surveillance system. So we recovered these guys out. They went the opposite way on the river. We got them out. And then we had to go back up north towards the desert. And now it's getting dark. And we're kind of like fighting our way back. and it's nighttime. I'm like, shit, it's just 2 vehicles. This isn't cool, but carry on. And we come up to some checkpoints. We see a checkpoint in the distance with our night vision. So we stop the vehicle. I take the dismounts out and we start patrolling up towards these guys' checkpoint. And thankfully, it turned out not to be Taliban. It was, again, Afghan National Police doing shakedowns and made ourselves back. So we finally get back to the Sleeger. We've been up all night. We get to sleep. We're beside the wheel wells of our vehicles, and all of a sudden, boom! I'm like, shit. We get up, and then you could hear the guys that were on security go like, it's ours, don't worry about it. But no one told us that the artillery was in position and they're firing a firing mission. We just finally got our heads down. It's like literally a half hour later, and that woke us up. We get back to sleep after that. But we did have one crazy situation. We're out on a mission, and again, we're just out in the middle of the desert sleeping, and get woken up, and it's like, hey, what's going around the net right now on the radio is Canadian soldiers have been captured by the Taliban. We need 100% head count. So I had to go around to each individual, grab the platoon warrant, go around to each individual soldier, count them, check them, and make sure we had all our guys, which we did. And then all other subunits did the same thing. And it turned out it was just a rumor on the net.
Jeez.
That the enemy started.
Yeah.
That'd be horrible to have someone captured by those guys.
When you're over there, is there a lot of that, like the propaganda or head games, or they're trying to get you to lose your morale and give up?
Oh yeah, it works.
All that stuff.
It works back and forth. Like we drop the leaflets. We have our human guys. We have our what are they called? Can't think of the name of the guys. It's some kind of intelligence, and they do their thing. But a part of the psychological part, which is interesting, is as you're approaching these towns, it's kind of comical in a way, especially when you're dismounted. I wish I could remember the name of these guys. Anyways, they have loudspeakers. They're carrying backpacks with loudspeakers.
Yeah.
And then they're transmitting as we're approaching things like, come out, you cowards, and fight. Fight like men. Things like that. You're just shaking your head. And it's kind of cool. But then I'm thinking, you know what? I don't want to be that guy carrying the speaker. How do you explain, like, you got shot and you got a speaker on your back?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're right about psychological operations. So Nathan, in about the same time Tim was in the former Yugoslavia area, a Canadian unit did a demonstration for all the different warlords, brought them to a central point and demonstrated the TOW anti-tank missile by firing it into an old tank hull so that the various warlords could see the explosion. But what they did is they absolutely packed that empty tank hull to the brim with explosives. So this TOW missile system not only actually hit the thing, but it went mildly thermonuclear. That this massive explosion, and that made an obvious impression. So yeah, psych operations are always part of the job.
Yeah.
And the leaflet drops and all that good stuff.
Do you have any of those? Do either of you guys keep any of those? No.
I've got a couple of brochures from overseas that were distributed. And it's funny because they're for different sides of the same leaflet in Serbo-Croat and in Albanian. But the figurines are each respective group so that they look like the heroes.
Yeah.
Even though it's the same information, you have to tailor it to the audience, just like anything else.
It's crazy. Well, now you think we got the internet, and I mean that's a whole beast into itself with the amount of stuff you find on there, the things that are going on. So as we're coming up to the end of our time here, I want to make sure we talk about just kind of transitioning out to civilian life and some of the stuff you're doing. We did cover the jump school, that your Operation Pegasus jump in the last one. So I kind of just wanted to focus a little bit just on when you actually decide to leave the military. What was that decision like? Because I mean, you've given all these years to it. So just kind of what's your thought process and what made you think, well, this is the time?
Yeah, I got pushed or posted into the Strathconas, which is an armored regiment. And at that point, we had the anti-tank company. All anti-tank across Canada was consolidated with the PPCLI. And then we were positioned with the Strathconas. I've been a reconnaissance sniper my whole career. I have nothing to do with anti-tank. And I just got pushed into that position. And of course, the usual bull from the regimental sergeant going, well, you don't have to be qualified to be. Well, actually, you should be, because our role is the subject matter expert advisor to the OC. You're that secondary advice to decisions. So I did end up doing the course, which was phenomenal. It's an amazing piece of equipment. But I just felt not respected by being pushed there, because I was supposed to go to Jump Company as sergeant major. They were sergeant majorless for 6 months.
Okay.
And they were looking for one. And hey, I'm here. I'm fit. Let's do it. But bit of a clash with leadership with my RSM, and he pushed me into that, I think, intentionally. And working with the Strathconas wasn't a great experience. It was okay. But those poor guys over there were the forgotten children of the Patricias, and the morale was super low. And some of these guys hadn't gone on missions, and all they wanted to do is get on the mission. So I managed to get a few of them attached out onto mission, which was great. And this one decision that these guys were making just made me go, you know what? It's time to go.
Yeah.
I get it. I could have held out, but I was just in that mind space at that time with, like, I think it's time to go. And I saw an opportunity with the sheriffs to get into executive protection.
Yep.
It's my background in the Army, and I knew the guy running the unit was John Bisher, who ran the ERT team for years. And I trained the ERT team snipers for 3 years. So I had a good relationship with him, and sure enough, I got in, and within 8 months, John recruited me into executive protection. So it was a good move, good second career. But it was just that. It was being pushed into a company that I shouldn't have been with. Because I wouldn't have made that decision for one of my senior master warrant officers. I wouldn't have gone, you know what, I'm just going to throw you over here when you are fully qualified to be with the Jump Company, but I'm not going to do that for you. So to me, that's bad leadership.
Yeah. And I just, it's like you want to go out on a high note sometimes, but even then it could be hard. Were you thinking about, you had Afghanistan, and then as you're coming out of that, were you even remotely thinking about retirement at that point, or it's not until you landed in this?
No, I wasn't thinking about retirement at all. And I was supposed to be, that was 08 when I went over there. Was it 08? No, 07. I was supposed to go on back to Afghanistan.
Okay.
And then that got pulled out for me because I got sent over to take anti-tank so that the sergeant major that was over there could go on the mission.
Oh, I see.
So he took my position. And not only that, he stopped his guys from getting missions. But it was good for him to get his. Okay. That's when I'm like, yeah, I'm done with this.
Yeah, you could see what's going on.
But I did go on a mission prior to that. I was training special forces snipers overseas. So I went off on this one-off mission with 5 other Canadians. No, wrong, 3 Canadians. And we went off for 4 months, and I was training these special forces guys. So that was a good mission, and I ended up getting the Canadian, the Chief Defense Staff accommodation for that. So that was a good contribution to that. So yeah, it was time to leave. And then what I did was, when I retired, I rolled into the Loyal Edmonton Regiment. My op tempo had been pretty hectic the last 5 years in. And I thought, going to sheriffs will be great. We slow my tempo down, which it did. So the first year I was doing like patrol stuff. So that was too slow for me. And then I just went to the Eddies and went, hey, do you got a mission overseas? I need to get back overseas. So then I ended up going to Sierra Leone, West Africa.
Mm-hmm.
So I was only in the sheriffs for a year. Then I took a year off, went overseas on a mission, came back, then got picked up by executive protection.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? For the executive protection, because we have a whole talk about that in the other podcast. So I'll kind of refer people to that as well, because it's very interesting work. And there's not many people who get to do it. So yeah, I think everyone's going to have to listen to both these episodes to really kind of understand the full breadth of your career.
But I just want to say something quick though, is, how we were just chatting about the old school days and new days. And I just want to emphasize to people that every generation thinks they're harder than the last generation. And I just want everyone to know that we're in good hands with our soldiers moving forward.
100%.
And they're all achieving, as I said, we have all these specialties now, and the standards aren't lowering, and these guys and girls are achieving these standards.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's no shortage of this. And a good example is, say, Afghanistan in 06, where I took over guys who were fresh out of battle school. They did their year-long workup training for Afghanistan. I got to do all these warm-up missions and be deployed before Afghanistan. These guys, their first exposure to a deployment is full-out combat. And guess what? They did it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what generation you're at or where you're at, we're in good hands.
I think the key for that is, the people on the ground doing the work. They're doing the work, and a lot of it doesn't change. Just taking away the politics and all the other things going on, because that is what it is. But for the people on the front lines, they're busting their ass and they're working hard. So yeah, I definitely second that statement. So yeah, we're just at the end of the time, and I want to thank you guys for being on here. Ben for co-hosting again, and Tim for being on here a second time and going through your career, because you know what, I think it's nice to get stories out there, and yeah, I appreciate everything you've done and everything you continue to do to help the community, the veteran community. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks again, man.